Welcome back. Episode 9, People Over Politics. Once again, I'm the host, Martin Mitchell. We're joined by another special guest. So our guest today is just the Prince George's edition. Thank you for joining us, Mayor Medlock, all the way from District Heights.
Absolutely. No, brother, thank you for having me, brother. It's always a pleasure being in your presence and hearing your voice, bro.
Yes, I appreciate it. Absolutely. And, for the people who don't know about you, tell them a little bit about you and, who you are.
Man, I am, wow. One, I'm Jonathan Medlock. I'm first the mayor of the city of District Heights here in the gorgeous Prince George's in Prince George's County, proud. Uh, Before that, I organized most of my life as an organizer, activist. When I moved here to DC, I resurrected me and Brother Salim Adolfo, the National Black United Front. So coming into this, into politics is, activism on steroids, putting things into action, making things happen. I'm also the president of the Maryland Black Mayors here in the state of Maryland. So we just had a conference today and yesterday to bring all of us together to figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to move our county and state forward. So I was just appointed for that in October. So I'm ready to do that. I thank the mayors of the state for entrusting in me to lead them throughout this year. So
Sure. Okay.
and there's so many other things we could talk about, brother, but I'm here to listen to you and respond to the questions you have. I'm just a humble servant.
Of course, and this is our first time having you on, and for the most part, I know you well, and this is just a casual conversation.
Yes, sir.
The thought is we want to make it relatable to the viewers, and digestible.
Yes, sir.
And for the people who don't know anything about you, I will say, as a young Dems president, I've worked with you and the city several times, to support the unhoused community, whether it be clothing, whether it be food, and just doing community engagements, community events. So I know you to very much be a community oriented mayor, and someone who's always out in the community.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I appreciate that, brother. What they see is what they'll be, right? So, as leaders, we have to exemplify the behavior. We can't, as our parents used to tell us, don't do as I do, do as I say do, and we can't do that and lead in that direction anymore. Those are far gone days of not leading by example, and I believe being in the community itself, letting the community see the work we're doing is what we have to do. We no longer have a choice. So I believe that being visible as a mayor and being the representative of the people, because they put me here for a reason. They put me to be authentically who I was when they voted for me, and what they saw before I was in office. So this is what I always do, and I love it. So I've worked with you many, many times and seen the work you do, and which put you where you are. And I try to sometimes give you some advice and some sound bites of life to keep you moving forward, because you are literally the future of this nation. So we have to pour into you, brother.
Well, absolutely. And how long have you been mayor again? I always appreciate you give me advice, especially.
Yeah.
But so how long have you been mayor of the great city of District Heights?
Man, only 2 years. It's 2 years since the pandemic started. Actually, I got the reins in November 2nd of 2019 as the acting mayor, and became the mayor of the city throughout the pandemic. So that's where I am, and it's been 2 long years, and I'm up for re-election actually for this May, June. Mhm.
Well, no, I got you. And the thought is what is something you plan to do for the city, as your tenure mayor, because we'll speak of your long-term vision, right? So the work just started,
Yeah.
so what is something that you plan to accomplish for the city?
Man, everything that was asked to do by the residents, and for since I've been in as a commissioner. I started in commissioner in 2016. I became the vice mayor in 2018, and 19 the acting mayor, and 20 the mayor. And everything that I said I would do, which is bringing in newer services. We built a veterans park for our veterans in the city and throughout Prince George's County. We're building a senior center building and a youth service building for our seniors and youth to use and throughout the community. It will be finished hopefully in July. It's been a couple of setbacks, but we've done so many works on that. We have annexation being proposed at this point in time to annex large areas of the unincorporated city, which is the Forestville area, some Suitland, the 20747. So that's happening now. So we're going to change our city from a small city to a medium-sized city overnight. We're doing that along with many partners in the county and state. So that's happening, starting the conversations, and just building relationships outside the city so we can get city services within our municipality. So just building relationships. And I'm going to continue to do that with the city, providing all the services, especially through COVID. You know, we work harder during COVID, providing services, food, vaccines, vaccinations, health services, mental health services to our seniors. And that's the first time I had a chance to see how much our seniors are dealing with, and our youth, but our seniors who are stuck at home dealing with so many mental health problems that we never thought about. And it was an opportunity to really get out and knock on their doors and have that conversation with them. So
no, and that's key. And you know, one of the things that I wanted to ask you is who represents you at the county council level?
Our county council currently is Derek Leon Davis.
Okay, and then you guys have a good relationship with the county council.
We always had a good relationship working to get the resources here in the city. We've always worked symbiotically to make those things happen. And especially we can't forget the D25, my Senator Melanie Griffith, my delegates Darrell Barnes and Nick Charles. It was Derek E. Davis, which is going to become our treasurer for the state. Now we have Karen Tolles. Yeah.
Okay. No, I mean, because, you know, me being a city elected official, I know that it's important to have good relationships with your state reps and your county reps. And, you know, especially for us, I think that, you know, we can strengthen the relationship with the county and our municipality. I think that there is a pretty strong relationship with the city and the state, but I think that there could be a stronger relationship because of course, you know, it impacts the city, right? The money they get, the programming, the attention, you know, that the municipality gets. Because even though, you know, the municipalities are important, a lot of times they need, you know, city or state, county or state resource to support themselves completely. And so, yes, it's very important to have those great relationships. And you brought up something else that's very important, just not only in the pandemic, but has been exposed even more in the pandemic, which is, you know, mental health.
Yes, sir.
You as a mayor, especially a pandemic mayor, I would say, you know, what are some things you've done around mental health to support mental health? I know that at least starting that conversation where mental health is important, but as far as like putting resources, you know, behind this and trying to, you know, get some resources, what are some examples of that or ideas that you might have for your area?
No, absolutely, man. It starting the conversation is important. Probably having the conversation is one of the most important. It's the most critical because people aren't still having the conversations that are needed, right? So we go into our own private space and we're so alone dealing with the same issues compounded with the pandemic. So, you know, really speaking the story and letting people know, me too, right? Even I deal with depression and anxiety and I've dealt with a string of panic attacks and a few things throughout my life, not just during the pandemic, but still saying I've dealt with it, I've done it, and look at me, I'm still here. I'm still a survivor of those particular things, and I've grown, you know, actually throughout the pandemic, socially, politically, I've grown in so many ways. It hasn't stopped me, and still dealing with the things that we deal with naturally, and understanding that there's the duality that we have. It's that human, but it's that spirit. So sometimes our spirit can be high and our body, our duality can be low. And providing the resources through NAMI, letting people know that those resources are available and they exist. Collaborating with so many organizations who are out there that people just don't know about, that have been so important throughout the pandemic, to give those calls to people to say, hey, we're here. Do you need to talk? There were so many times throughout the pandemic, brother, that I've gone to, people have called me in a panic, right? And said, I can't breathe, or I'm, I feel like I'm gonna die. I'm like, I'm gonna have a heart attack. And Mayor, can you come see me? And I understand what they're going through. So I drop everything because they're in my community. I have access to them. So I drop everything at 10:30 at night, knock on their door, and make sure I with mask on, going in and just talking to them, just saying it's going to be all right. Calm down. You're going to be okay. It's a panic attack. Just relax. Drink some water. Whatever that thing is, and being present. You don't know how much that means to people who are going through so much. So the resources that I'm talking about is for our community to be present. Miss Montre Dupree has done the same thing. She's in the community and goes to these people's house if I can't be available, and other community members. So that is the resource, and the resource is us, because we can talk about programs that are out and about, but who's going to those homes personally and doing the work that is needed? And that's that 10:30 at night phone call, 10:30 at night, showing up at someone's home, calm them down, and sitting with them for 2 hours. Those are the resources, brother.
No, I appreciate you. And, just to give a shout out to your great staff member, Montre Dupree. I know she does a lot of great work in the community.
Bishop.
And yes, exactly. Right. It's hard to find good help. So
Yeah, real
I'm,
talk.
I'm definitely glad that you found Montre. And,
Yeah.
one of the questions I had for you was, of course, just understanding the different municipalities. Would
Mhm.
you consider District Heights like a strong mayoral city or like a strong council? What would be how you break that down?
Yes, sir, brother. There's four forms of really strong, four forms of government. The District Heights operates like I think 16 or actually 20 other municipalities out of the 27 municipalities we have here in Prince George's County. We are a strong commission form of government. We're commissioners. For instance, in your city of Laurel, you have council members. We are one and the same, just giving just a different name. As in some states, there are aldermen and presidents of areas, but they could be also they're the same thing. The president is the mayor, the
Yeah.
alderman, so forth and so on within particular municipalities. But we have a four commission and mayor form of government here with a strong commission. Think about the president and the House. All right. The
Yeah.
president can make certain decisions unilaterally per the charter, but most things have to go through the commission or council in order to make things really happen and move. So it's very important for a mayor to be very diplomatic in these forms of government, because we need everybody on board to do a job for the city. The commission or legislators, of course, as legislators, it's their responsibility to help move the city forward, push legislation to have a great rapport and reputation throughout the community. But it's on the mayor at the end of the day of the chip stop,
Yeah.
buck
Chief
stop.
executive.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, the chief executive.
Yes, sir.
And I think Laurel is similar in the
Yeah.
way that we have a mayor and a council, but you know, we're a strong mayoral city,
Okay.
um, historically. And the council, yes, they are important, but a lot of times, it's been with
Yeah.
what the mayor says, goes. Although we have some new people,
Yeah.
on the council, and they're gonna shake up things and have shaken
Yeah,
up
man.
because as a lot of times, especially the way ours work is like the mayor doesn't get a vote. He concurs, but at these city council meetings, he has to work with the council president, to get these things on the agenda
Yeah.
and to make sure that the votes are there.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah, these forms aren't perfect by no stretch of the imagination. And most governments that I talk to, and being of the Maryland Black mayors, it gives me an opportunity to really talk to the mayors and have been a council or commissioner. I understand both sides, but it's very important that the mayor understands that he can't do this by himself, and there will be a coup d'état in a sense if there is no symbiosis, right, within the council and the mayor. And the council has so much power. The mayor is that visual, that picture of the city, but the council is the backbone that allows the city to move forward. I think when council and commission and all of us understand that the symbiosis that we have together gets things moving, because most cases, the mayor will be called on for a lot of things, and he knows a lot of information ahead of time. It's important that he disseminates that information that is not that the council does not understand or know, and it's very important to have a good leader, and to do that and pass on that information so everybody has the information and not just him or her. One of the things, brother, if I can talk candidly,
Sure.
being from Savannah in South Georgia and coming here, I noticed that the need to really be that strong bond together is not as prevalent here as I would have hoped. Right, from being from the south, we had to band together. We had to say, you know what, we can't have it all. And brother, Martin Mitchell, we're going to make sure that you have your portion and make sure that we move, together in line and step, because we have enemies all around us. We can't be our own. And I haven't seen that translate here in this area. And it's disappointing, brother. It's very disappointing. And it hurts to see us fighting against each other. And if you've noticed, if you've seen any posts that I've shared or watched me over the years, I've never said one bad word about anybody. Whether I'm running against them, whether I know that they're no good and they can't do the work I do, but I can't say anything bad about them. I can't be negative because I have to evoke positive energy, because that's what I get back. So people wonder why I am successful in most things that I do. It's because I only give those positive energies out, and I'll get it back in return. Sometimes I got to be patient, but it's going to come back around, brother.
No, I mean, you and I talk about it a lot, especially, with local county politics, the fact that the attitude is like crab in a barrel.
Speak.
Right. And, the fact that us as Black people, we can elevate each other, and all win. Right.
Yes,
So the
sir.
thought is like, we don't always have to attack each other or bring each other down. Like the thought is the others are doing
Speak.
that just well enough.
Speak.
So, I have seen that in the county, and that's why, even though, me personally, I know everyone, I'm close to very few people.
Yeah. Speak. Yeah.
Because, the thought is I learned a long time ago, you don't know, you don't let your right hand know what your left hand's doing. So
Okay.
even though, I'm always out there and everything, I'm still thinking of things that I might not tell you. And one of the interesting pieces for me is people have seen like me collaborate with interesting individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And the thought is like I've collaborated with someone who hates somebody else.
Come on.
And then been able to bring them together, like, okay, here, all four of us are gonna work together.
Yeah.
So the thought is like just being able to do that, and put our differences aside and look at like, okay, what do we want and how can we win? Like let's stop looking at differences and let's look at like what we want to do together. Let's look at that common ground we could actually find.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, I appreciate you bringing up that, Medlock.
Yeah, we have to. We
And
can't avoid the elephant in the room and saying kumbaya when it's not that. That's not the song that's being played. You understand? We gotta really speak to that and start talking absolute realness to the situation and not beat around the bush. And we know what we have to do collectively. We know what we have to do, but we choose not to do it. And it starts with being secure. A lot of people that you talk to, you speak, and you see, they're not secure. Let's be very clear. And that insecurity drives them to kind of drive a wedge against themselves, to be very honest, because we step into our own self-interest. It is us that has to get this done. The others do give us hell, and we can't continue to work on their side or at their behest to do that continually. And I think that we're gonna get it because our back's against that cold brick, brother. It is, so yes, we have to act and react accordingly, and we can't fight. So once we realize that, one of the things from an organizational perspective I've learned is that if we find one thing, brother, that we can do well together, not 16, not fighting every single thing, not fighting the laws and taxes and LGBTQ and this, that. No, one thing to unite on. Let's do that very well. Everything else will come together if we can figure that thing out, and that's what I try to do. I try to focus on one particular objective throughout the community and build and rally the community around that thing. And when you work hard together, it's almost a military style. You work together hard and sojourn in different things, and you naturally build a symbiotic relationship. You naturally build on that forward thinking objective. So finding one thing, brother, and I think we're going to do that. And people like yourself who are genuine, okay, who are genuine brothers about and really about the people. And one thing you may not have known, but when I first started running, when I stepped down from my position as chair of the National Black United Front, I was thrust into this, and my slogan was mantra was people, not politics. People over politics. Same slogan that you have. I've had that one in 2013, and you may not have known that, but because of who you are, it is real. We are of the same spirit, brother. We have the same spirit, and we're doing the same work. We are purpose for this. So it's easy for you to have people over politics because that's your real desire. Period.
No, I mean, you're right. I mean, I know that you as an OG, you talked to me many times, was like, I see you, you're valued, and make sure that you make sure that you're getting credit, and then also, you know, make sure to space yourself out because in this space of public service, a lot of times, you could just give, and sometimes have none left for yourself,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Whether it be time, resources, or just empathy. A lot of times, like being in public service, a lot of people don't see the other side.
Come on.
They only see you as a representative.
Come on.
So they don't think about you going home and having to deal with your kids and having to deal with work struggles. So all of this you have to do, while putting on a great face for the community.
Come on.
So
And we get it. We see it. We know the face. We get it. One of the things I've done, man, for at least 25 years of my life, man, I've never sought to be successful. I sought to be valued. And along with being valued, there is a price for this. There's a price that we have over being great servants. So success comes naturally when you're valued and knowing your worth. And I think you understand that you're getting to understand your worth now and that you're valued. So, and I tell you so all the time, you don't do anything for people without them understanding your value. And time is a fleeting thing, brother. And it is worth, if it's worth your time, which is your currency, our currency, then do the thing. But if it's not, do not.
absolutely. And for some of the people who don't know, Mayor Medlock, he was one of the first people to support me in my race to become the youngest city council person in the city of Laurel. But segueing, of course, a big thanks to that. And segueing, I wanted to ask you about one of my favorite topics,
Yes, sir.
cannabis. So yes, exactly. I know you're a veteran, right? And I push a lot of veterans to explore the benefits of CBD, THC, because one of the first individuals that I met in the cannabis community in DC around 2015-16, was a U.S. Navy vet, and basically her story was she was on several opioids. She had a couple organs that after this years of opioid use, some of the organs weren't working as well as they should. So when she moved to DC, she became a medical patient and, was trying more holistic options, in medical cannabis. And, come to find out, somewhere down the line, like a year or two later, she was using barely any of the previous prescriptions that she had. So, as you as a mayor, you as a veteran, and of course everything that's going on with cannabis legally, federally, where's your position? What do you want to see the future of Maryland cannabis? And then you as a mayor, have you done anything policy wise, to direct the police department? Because I know that there's several things that we could do locally in our municipality.
Very complex subject. And first and foremost, let me start off with saying I've served alongside. I'm not a veteran. I've been 29 years working with the Department of Defense and all services. I have an affinity for my veterans because most of my family and my son, he received a scholarship from the Navy and served and played with the Navy and served with them. So me still working 29 years on serving alongside my Navy, Air Force, Marine brothers and sisters doing some very good work, but not a veteran. I want to make sure we understand that. But one of the things as a mayor, I served on the Fair Committee. Finance Administration and Intergovernmental Relations Committee. And what is that committee? For the National League of Cities. And you'll get in that very, very soon, brother, as you continue to build within this space. But one of the things we championed was changing the language. And I read an article today that the federal government has passed the House that marijuana will be legal. I don't know if you read that today. Today, this went out. That the House passed a bill to the Senate, verifying and saying that marijuana will be legal. So passing a law that marijuana is legal.
The Senate didn't pass it last year, so I am hopeful that it passed the House again, the MORE Act.
Really, trust me, we've been working on the thing for about 6 years. It's going to happen. It is absolutely going to happen. No way around it. As cannabis and medical marijuana, even when you look at any psychotropic drugs that allows benefits, because most people, when you talk about marijuana or drugs in that area, THC, DMT, okay, and various other things, it's sometimes the benefit of that thing is well worth it. And if you're profiting, from laws, the pharmaceuticals, you're making 78 billion 1 year, okay, on getting those people synthetic drugs, and instead of allowing them to go out into their own backyard and make themselves holistically well, we know what it is. It's the profit over people, and that has been happening for the last 60 years, and we have to stop that. So my position on that is that if and when holistic and medicines like this is passed, I welcome it. I can't talk too strongly on it as a still a federal official,
Sure.
but I know it's gonna come over and it's gonna pass, and it's gonna be a most benefit for the nation, and especially for our people. When we talk about decriminalizing the use of these particular drugs, that's important to me.
Sure.
There's no fight on drugs.
So that's why, as a key stakeholder in the great city of District Heights, I just want to know if you have, put together a resolution or signed anything to send over to the chief of police, to further deprioritize, cannabis in the city.
Yeah, it's hard to do that now when it is still federally illegal, right? We have to really.
It's the criminalized. So it is within your discretion. Not to say to completely legalize it, but deprioritize it. So just similar to Baltimore or DC, we're not even gonna say DC. We're not gonna say Baltimore. We'll say Baltimore, where the thought is just like you will not be pressed out for cannabis. It's not gonna happen. They have to worry about bigger crimes like gun violence, and serious things.
Absolutely.
And we know gun violence is up in Prince George's County.
Speak.
So I mean, this is something like for me. I was gonna sit down with the mayor of our city and the chief of police. It's something that you're willing to do or you're not. In my opinion, as far as deprioritizing, we're not saying legalize, just deprioritizing.
I don't think it's a major priority. We have so many other things when we talk about drugs and things in the community, guns, and higher rated drugs, higher class leveled drugs, if you will, that we concern. We don't have a problem with arresting people who do cannabis. We know that it's a lower tier crime or whatever you want to call it. But they still allow, for instance, marijuana over a certain amount is legal, or under a certain amount is legal. Anything above a certain amount is illegal, correct? So you can't be caught with a pound of marijuana and think you're going to go scot-free, because that's what it is. It's been decriminalized. We have to know the rules and regulations, and I happen to know those things, right? So we're not going to, press somebody out if they got a joint in the car and they're just getting high and doing their thing. And, keep moving. But we're not going to ignore the laws that we don't necessarily like until we change. Until we change it. We have to abide by those letters, especially as mayors and council members, the law. And I can't ask my officers to turn a blind eye, but we ask them to focus on what really matters. Can we say that? What really
Yeah.
matters, brother.
No. I mean, I would agree with you wholeheartedly, right? The decrim threshold we have is 10 grams. In the state of Maryland, is one of the lowest, nationally. So the thought is, of course, you're not asking them to turn a blind eye to a pound or
Yes,
or
sir.
or, or anything like that, because of course, we got to advocate for that at the state level to make sure it
Yes, sir.
happens.
Yes, sir.
But the thought is, if you send this actual direction to the police department about making sure it's the lowest level priority, it's on record, it's on paper, they know, what I mean, and it's not a gray area. It's something that you stated. This is something that I would like as to not be a priority for you guys.
Yeah.
Here's why.
Yeah, but that's a good point. I haven't done that because that hasn't been our problem. We're focusing on making sure guns seriously are off the streets, and making sure that our domestic violence crimes are taken care of. So, and I've seen this. We can go into a domestic violence call and reeks of marijuana, people smoking. That's not our focus. We're focused on who did what to who. Not whether there's an ashtray with a marijuana butt cigarette in it. That's not our priority. So even to state that is the case, it is not our priority. Our priority is dealing with the real crime. And if we say that marijuana is not a real crime, or that it's been decentralized or decriminalized, then what are we doing? So I don't think that's something for me to actually have to do now. Because once again, the Fair Committee, I'm working at a higher level to make sure that it's eradicated than working with the minutia, me personally. Now, other mayors may choose to do it, council members and commissioners, but I like working top down a lot of times. So if we eradicate it from this level, we don't have to worry about that.
Of course.
Yes,
I mean, and I'm hopeful that it happens at the federal level at some point. And I, now being a municipal person, I'm gonna make sure to lead the charge, right? Like to direct these other municipalities to even if you see it as just ceremonial, right? To make sure that you are you're trying to be fair or even more fair on cannabis. Kind of a play on words with the committee. But before I get you out of here, I wanted to ask you 3 quick questions. So, are you a Pepsi or Coke type of person?
Neither. But if I had to choose, it'd probably be Coke.
I got you. And it, of course, now it's Second Chance Month, and so one question I had is, like, in a very short way, what is a beautiful second chance story that you know of?
Oh my God.
Right.
Yeah, I see them all the time. Okay. Second chances. We have I hired most of my public works guys are from a second chance perspective. Because if something has happened in their lives, they've been in jail, dealt with a hard past, wasn't given the opportunity, this, that, and the other. I've hired all my guys in most who have had a record, who have done something in their past that they need forgiveness for. They need that second chance. Since I've been a commissioner in 2016, those are the guys that I've worked with because someone gave me a second chance. So that story by itself, and having a department of individuals who have been shunned and not really provided an opportunity to show who they become, not who they were. We all grow and we all see something different as we age, and we need to give those opportunities. And those are a lot of things. Even now, brother, we spend more time rebuking people than giving them those second chances, those opportunities to do better, and reminding them of what they used to be. And that is not my thing. One of the things I know for me is I don't want people to be judgmental against me and hold what I've done when I was 19 is totally different than what I've done in my 40s. Sure. I am not that person, 20s, 30s. I have changed and evolved. And I think for my second chance story, that is saying it and doing the work of second chance.
No, I mean, I appreciate it. And of course, you shared a great story. And the last question I'd ask you is, you seem to be a person who reads a lot of philosophy. Who's your favorite philosopher? And, what philosophy do you like to practice the most?
Oh, my God. Love.
You can only give us one.
Okay. And I would go from, the Prophet Muhammad.
Okay.
And I love reading. I talked to you. I don't know if you guys know brother Omar Ntunde, and we've done a lot of work from a national perspective, working with organizations. So understanding work with all religions and creeds. I've worked with Islam, Christians, Buddhists, Taoists, Hindu, of all. And the one central theme is that we all are human and we're all inextricably connected to each other. We're connected, and having that connection, that is one of my biggest understanding, the divine understanding. So the Prophet Muhammad is one, because one thing really quick that God said to Prophet Muhammad was Ikra. Ikra means read, and he was a illiterate, but God spoke to his heart and said, "Do a thing," and it was done. So when God speaks to us and say, "Do a thing," read, and you have no ability, don't worry about that. Just do the work. And I think that is my philosophy. God speaks, even if I don't know what to do or how to do it, I do the thing, and it all works out.
I think the saying I've seen is always forward, never backwards.
Forward ever,
What is
backwards
it?
never. Forward ever, backwards never.
Forward ever, backwards never. So that is Mayor Medlock's saying. Thank you for joining us. Of course,
Thank you,
you have
sir.
an election coming up, and so tell the people how they can check you out and how they can stay connected with you.
Yeah, definitely stay connected. We got to get connected with our politics, our politicians. I never thought of myself as one until I became mayor, but I am an activist who understands what politics means to people. Get involved, stay involved. Contact me. Just look me up online. Jonathan Medlock, JohnathanMedlock. Of course, social media. You'll be able to find my information anywhere. My Facebook, Twitter, Instagram accounts are all online for you. If you want to be involved, come to District Heights, get involved. Let's hit the streets together. Let's walk the streets. Let's knock on doors. And if you believe in the philosophy, and if you believe in the work that I've done, if you watch me over time, please continue to support those like myself and Brother Mitchell who are starting from the bottom in local government. This is where things start. It starts at the local level because we're going to be your congressmen, your senators, and your higher representatives in a few years. So work with us from the beginning so you'll know what you get at the end. So follow me. Let's do the work.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor Medlock, for joining us. And of course, good luck on this re-election. We look forward to having you back.
Yes, sir. Peace and blessings. I appreciate you so much.
Yes, peace and blessings.
Peace.
Welcome. We got our next guest here. Thanks for joining us, David Grogan.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
This is a very Prince George's episode. We had
Yes, sir.
Mayor Medlock, and now we got David Grogan. And Dave, you're also what is it, HBCU alum as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. Proud Bowie State. Yes, sir. Proud BSU. Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
you
know how we are. Bulldog Nation, brother.
Near and dear to my heart, Dave. You know I'm a Bulldog alum as well.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
So for people who don't know you, Dave, I know you're running for office, of course, but just tell the people a little something about you.
Absolutely, yeah. And like you said, first of all, I'll just call you Martin for this conversation. But I respect your title, and I love calling you councilman. That just that makes me feel good. I really do. But for the sake of this conversation, I'll call you Martin. Martin. So I'm from Prince George's County. I'm a proud lifetime Prince Georgian who grew up in Glass Manor. We are some proud folks in Glass Manor, Oxon Hill, graduating from Oxon Hill. And actually in Glass Manor, I was around when they first built the Glass Manor Rec Center, and had some great mentors while I was there that taught me the world of weightlifting and bodybuilding. And, I'm a professional health and wellness person. Many people don't know that about me. I started that at 14 years old. I started competing in bodybuilding and powerlifting and all of that at 14 years old, and have competed all over the world. and as actually hosts. And Martin, you probably don't know, I used to host one of the largest natural drug-free shows in the country at Bowie State. And so that's something that I, really kind of started as a kid. But when I graduated from Oxon Hill, a month from the time I graduated from Oxon Hill, I went to Paris Island to become a Marine. And many people know that I'm a proud United States Marine. And, I served 6 years. I served 6 years as an active reservist before I went to Bowie State. While I was at Bowie State, I was a part of the transition football program that was labeled the worst football program in the country with the longest losing streak in college football history. And I was a part of that turnaround where we had the greatest turnaround in college football history in the football program. And now you see what we have today, a real powerhouse program that I was a part of when that transition started. But while I was a student and the captain of the football team there, then is when I started my law enforcement career. I started as a student. While I was a student, I worked for the Secret Service one semester, and in the opposite semester, I worked for the Department of Justice, U.S. Marshal Service. And I was very, very fortunate in both of those ventures, I call them, to have some great, really good mentors. While I was in the Secret Service, the director of the Secret Service took me under his wing, and I had some great, great experiences. And this is one of the reasons why I believe so much in mentoring and being role models. And I had that, with the Department of Justice. So by the time I graduated from Bowie, I had a choice in what I wanted to do in the law enforcement career. I could have been a Secret Service agent, could have been an FBI agent, could have been a DA, could have been any federal agent. But I chose to be a Deputy United States Marshal. And so that started as a student, and I did 25 years with them, and I retired after a distinguished career in 2013 as a supervisory Deputy United States Marshal. And out of the 25 years, 23 out of those years, I was in a leadership or management position, and I managed local, state, and federal law enforcement locally and around the world, really leading law enforcement operations around the world. And so once I retired, it wasn't until then I got really involved in sort of the political world. Okay. Ran for office for the first time in 2014. It was an eye-opener. Shocking, shocking eye-opener. I knew nothing about local politics. I was very familiar with federal politics. I didn't even know who my local elected officials were, none of them. I had never heard of the gentleman that I ran against, Senator Doug Peters. I had never heard of him when I ran against him. And it was an eye-opening experience. It really taught me a lot. It was a great experience. Okay. And it helped, propel me to where I am today. Because one of the many, many lessons that I learned when I ran against Senator Doug Peters is that I thought, I'm a sports person. I've been playing sports my whole life. I'm sickly. I've come to the realization that I'm sickly competitive, always have been. And so what I realized is that I wasn't running against one person. I was running against a system. I was running against an operation. I was running against a machine. And so I had to decide whether this was really for me or not. I didn't know whether it was realistic to run for office in a county that's really controlled by outsiders. That's true. It's not, we're a predominantly Black county, but the people that pull the strings or call the shots or sort of control things don't look like you and I. And so once I've learned that I'm a veteran, I'm an investigator by trade, by living. That's what I do. That's what I know. And so I've spent the last several years studying Prince George's County, and I decided that I was going to stay in this. I was going to stay in this, and I was going to do what I needed to do. And that brings us to where we are today, where instead of running for office and running as an individual, now I have built an organization of people, of like-minded people like yourself, that are into politics, because I didn't have political friends. There's another lesson that I learned. I'm super popular in my little world of Prince Georgian and Marine and Bowie State and Oxon Hill, but I didn't have any friends that were political. And so I had to develop political friends. And so I've spent the last 6 years intentionally doing just that, to prepare for what I'm set out to do now. And I say, running for office has always been a marathon, not a sprint. And we started the marathon in 2014, and we're going to cross the finish line in the marathon in 2022.
Hey, and Grogan, I've seen you out here working, and you brought up a lot of things. One, you brought up the establishment, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
there is a political establishment in Prince George's County, politics. Whether you recognize it or not, there are a few people behind closed doors that pull a lot of strings, right?
Yeah.
And there's been something known as slates in Prince George's
Yes.
County. It basically means like, you teaming up with people and y'all putting money together and, putting literature together, and a lot of times making it difficult for new candidates, or candidates that aren't on this slate to be successful. So we have seen that in Prince George's County and, many places nationwide.
Yes.
But definitely in Prince George's County.
Yeah.
But Dave, just to, of course, ask you a question. I know that living is learning, and so
Yes.
this will be your third time on the ballot, right?
Yes.
So, how one are you going to differentiate yourself from other candidates, but also how do you respond to like, well, maybe he's just a perennial candidate, someone that just
Mhm.
wants to be in office. Like, how do you respond to those type of questions?
Yeah, so I've been very intentional about differentiating myself from other candidates by being wide open. I am probably the most active candidate on social media intentionally. I'm on all forms of social media: LinkedIn, Facebook, IG, Nextdoor, everything. And I'm very intentional about being vocal. I've always been vocal. I don't mind. I don't know why it seems like most, or a lot, I don't say most, but a lot of candidates for public office, they almost like they hide. They don't want people to know who they are. And I do just the opposite, and I always have. I don't mind open forum debates on public forums, social media forums, anything people want to talk about, because what sets me apart from certainly my opponents is my real experience. I don't need talking points. I don't need anyone to teach me what to say and, give me a platform. And I don't need any of that. I have real experience. And so that's really what sets me apart from the other candidates. As far as what's different, I think that my background and my resume speaks for uh, my passion, which is public safety. I'm a protector by nature. Boys are natural protectors by nature. Traditional boys are natural protectors. So when you compare my lifestyle, it's very consistent. I didn't just pop out of somewhere out of the blue. Wow, where does this guy come from running for a law enforcement position? No, when I graduated from high school, I signed up. I volunteered. I wasn't drafted to be a Marine. I wanted to be a Marine. When I graduated from Bowie, nobody drafted me into law enforcement. I volunteered to do this, and so I just believe that my record, my resume, which I would put up against anyone in this country on public safety and overall experience, is that it demonstrates my true commitment to wanting to serve the community. I'm not looking to be a professional politician in any of that. I'm simply looking to be in a position to make a real difference. And like I mentioned earlier, I realized that it's a process. I ran 3 times. That's a part of the process. Like you mentioned, I've been on the ballot 3 times. That's a part of the process. Any grassroots candidate, I don't know if there's any grassroots candidate that have won, very few, the first time, and certainly in Prince George's County. I was very happy to help a number of candidates, to include Judge Gladys Weatherspoon. I think she's one of the very few candidates that came out first time.
Oh yeah, first time.
First time.
Yeah,
Yeah, the first
yeah,
time, and she won. But I think that she had the support from groups of grassroots people like myself who fought against these systems, and I think that that's a part of getting elected in Prince George's County.
Yeah, I mean, hey, like if we're going to that route, I'll say she had a lot of support from grassroots, but after the primary, she had support from some establishment,
Yes.
So, and to me, arguably, I don't think it was necessary, some of that support or receiving some of the support given where she was anyway. But that's a whole nother conversation. I'm still proud of the two new judges, April and Gladys, because I know that I helped April, and April took her multiple times because I was helping April since I was at Bowie in 2016. So.
And I didn't know that, Martin. I didn't. I remember April when she first started, and I tell you, I'd always admired her tenacity because it's her story is somewhat similar to mine. She is a fighter. She just really is, and I respect that. I didn't know that you were actively, and I'm not surprised that you were actively involved with her campaign, and I'm glad to see that she has done so well.
Yes. Well, I can say one of the last races I had to defeat that sample ballot. Remember, there's a fake sample ballot going around in the general election. So I defeated that at Laurel because that was going around. So I had to shut that down as Laurel posed. Like, nope.
And this is great. This is great. I'm glad to hear that. I remember on election day, April came around and it had gotten dark. I was at the polls at Bowie State, of course, and I guess she was making her rounds. And I didn't recognize her. She came up and she just seemed like she was just checking on things. She was dead serious. She just was seeing what was going on. And I think she was trying to, get an idea who was passing out those fake sample ballots. And certainly you ain't gonna never catch me. I was at that poll specifically for, with Gladys and such at the time. But
Of course. Well, one of the things I wanted to ask you was, for some of the people, might not know, just everyday people, what are the responsibilities of, the sheriff, especially the sheriff of this county? And, do you plan to adopt new responsibilities in any way?
Yes, that's the number one question that I'm asked on the campaign trail. And I spend a lot of time, all of my campaigns have been about education, because I realized quickly, like I didn't know much about local politics in 2011, that area. And most people have no idea. And the average person has no idea what the sheriff's role is. The average person in the county has no idea who the sheriff is, which is why I've been very intentional about educating. I just posted on Facebook, we were campaigning, and I have coloring books for the kids. And my coloring book is called Your Sheriff is Your Friend. And it teaches the kids early on who and exactly what the sheriff is, because when they took civics out of our schools decades ago, we really graduate from school, colleges, and high school and have no idea about any of these roles. And so I'm very intentional about using I don't use the word platform, but using my vision to educate. And it starts with educating children, which is why I came up with the coloring book. But the sheriff, one is the chief law enforcement officer for the county. Many people don't know that. The sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer of the county. The chief of police is appointed by the county executive, in our case, or generally mayors or county executives appoint chiefs of police. But the sheriff is elected by the people. And so there's no reason why there's no way you can have a functional county or town if most people have no idea who the sheriff is, if that's the chief law enforcement officer. Sure. And so that's another reason why I've been very intentional about the visibility, high visibility. Everyone is going to know Dave Grogan, the sheriff. That's intentional. We're not as small as Mayberry, but everybody knew Andy Griffin. They knew who the sheriff was, because that's, how you going to have community policing and you don't even know who's in charge, who you hold accountable. And so, but ultimately, the sheriffs play a different role in different towns, in different counties, in different states. For an example, just Charles County. Charles County does not have a police department. And so the sheriff is the law enforcement for Charles County. But in Prince George's County, of course, we have not only a county police department, we have several municipalities. I want to say 27 municipalities, and some of them have police departments. And so the sheriff doesn't take on much of a police role in Prince George's County, which can change. because again, the sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer. But the primary function of the sheriff or the sheriff's department, because let's not get confused. People will say to me, David, you want to go out in the street and fight crime yourself? I can. I certainly can go through the police academy. I can do any of those things. But the sheriff is elected. But the deputy sheriffs are government employees. The deputy sheriff, they're employed, they're local government employees. The sheriff is elected by the people. But the sheriff sets the tone. So the primary role is the law enforcement arm of the courts. And what that means is that the sheriff is obviously responsible for the security of the courts, but the sheriff is also responsible for executing everything that comes out of court. In other words, a judge issues warrants, the judge issues protective orders, judge issues civil process. There is a lot of things that the judge issues that comes out of the courts. All of that is passed down to the sheriffs to execute. So the sheriff can decide what the priorities are. Should the priorities be evictions, or should the priority be felony warrants? The sheriff has that authority to make those decisions. What authority? The sheriff can also, when I'm your next sheriff, especially with this crazy spike in crime, the sheriff can take on traffic. The sheriffs can do all law enforcement functions, everything. The police cannot do the sheriff's work, but the sheriffs can do police work. So the sheriffs can take over traffic. Sheriffs can take over minor crimes. Sheriffs can do just everything the police can do. But it's just a matter of what role that the elected sheriff decides, or what position that they want the sheriffs to be. And I think when I'm your next sheriff, we have to be much more visible, especially with this crime. And I think that we have to focus on getting violent offenders off our streets by way of the warrants, because many people don't realize that crime oftentimes, or many times, crime is committed by people who have outstanding warrants. These are repeat offenders. And so the number one role that the sheriffs play in fighting crimes is getting violent repeat offenders off the streets. I used to supervise the Capital Area Fugitive Task Force. That's a federal task force that has local, state, and federal law enforcement officers from around the DMV. And the primary role is felony warrants. That's it. Murder warrants. And this is FBI agents, sheriff's departments, police departments, all come together. I used to run the Capital Area Fugitive Task Force. We can do the same thing in Prince George's County. Bring all these municipalities together, come up with a task force and say, you know what, this group is going to focus on felony warrants. And that's the way, that's the role that sheriffs play when it comes to fighting crime.
I mean, you said some good things, and especially some responsibilities that will be interesting. I didn't know about the traffic. That's definitely interesting. I know Richard. You know Richard Elliott. I know we would take a different sentiment where traffic shouldn't be under law enforcement. Traffic should be under a completely different department. And I know you probably heard that argument as well. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you was, they have a lot of rights in what they enforce: evictions, violent warrants. What about no-knock warrants? We want them canceled completely, right? So that's, are you
a deep breath?
Are you an advocate? Are you an advocate? And hear me out. Are you an advocate for canceling no-knock warrants? I just want to know where you stand, and because you know where I stand on it.
Yeah, I take a deep breath when I say this to you.
I know.
And I'm somebody who managed the warrant squad. Capital Area Fugitive Task. I have locked up some of the most violent, dangerous people on this planet, America's most wanted cases, everything from A to Z. And I'm almost embarrassed to say I had never heard of a no-knock warrant. I had never heard, because on the federal level, a no-knock warrant makes no sense. When I think of a no-knock warrant, I think it's a home invasion. Because we're trained differently. Our training is totally different. In fact, we practice knocking. When we're in training, you're going to knock 3 times. And if we go over that, drills, and there's a reason for that. The purpose of that is liability. You run up in somebody's house and you have not knocked. Not only are we going to knock, we're going to have every identifier on us. It's not going to say U.S. Marshal, because some people have never heard of it. It's called police. The police is U.S. Marshal. Police is a universal term around the world. And so we're going to have identification. We're going to have police all over us. We're going to knock 3 or 4 times, because we're not going to, if somebody kills our person, and they say I was scared to death, I thought this was a home invasion. You can't, I don't know how you defeat that argument. And so certainly under my administration, I will never condone any kind of no-knock warrants. That is just, we will eventually pay for that through our tax dollars, through lawsuits. And so, no, I would fully support totally getting rid of any of the idea of a no-knock warrant.
Dave, I'm glad you mentioned this, because a lot of people don't know that, like, Maryland, has a lot of like negative history on, law enforcement and how we've shaped the national framework of law enforcement. And no-knock warrants, is one of those. I think one of the first cases came out of, I think, Maryland. One of the first like no-knock warrants.
Yeah, I think that no-knock warrants. It sounds like to me. Again, a lot of the bad policing and different things that you see is because this is a part of leadership. I think where people miss the boat when you see bad policing, you have to look at who's in charge, because the person in charge sets the tone for how law enforcement people operate. And I tell you that from personal experience, because like I said, I've been a leader or a manager for 23 out of my 25 years. Nobody working under me would ever think that like a no-knock warrant makes sense. Nobody, any kind of people already knew, my other passion or other sort of advocacy work is civil and human rights violations. See, people know you work under Dave Grogan. He has a zero tolerance for civil and human rights violations. And so when the head sets the tone, I have never had any complaints lodged against me. In fact, I've never had any complaints lodged against anybody that's ever worked for me about anything. I mean, I can't say no complaints, because you're going to get some stuff. Our guys, go through kicking in wrong doors in times. And so if something like that happens, we don't play Jedi mind tricks with people and tell them, oh no, we didn't do it. I send them guys out there and put the door back up themselves. They go put the door up. If you kick down the wrong door, you're going to go put that door up. And then when you finish putting the door up as a supervisor, then I'm going to show up and I'm going to apologize. And so we're going to, we set the tone as managers. We set the tone for how people operate.
No, I mean, I would agree with leadership and setting the tone, and it starts top down. And one of the statements that I wanted to make is like, no-knock warrants hasn't been something that we've executed since the beginning of time. I think it was something since like the 70s or 80s. So there were still warrants executed before then. So for the thought to act like, it's impossible to execute things without no-knock warrants, I think that's crazy. But Dave, one of the things I always wanted to ask you, I couldn't get you on the show and not talk about cannabis. So what would you do in your role to further deprioritize cannabis and be an advocate for decriminalization and responsible adult use, and medical use, of course.
Yeah, so cannabis is a very sensitive subject. I'll be quite candid with you. It was my daughter, who's now 23 years old, who lives with me. Cool. She was the one that really opened my eyes to the cannabis world. Because I listened to her, obviously I raised her, and then kids reach a certain age where at some point they really can teach you. And so I have never had cannabis. I've never had marijuana. I've drink, but I've never had any of that. So I don't know what it makes people feel like. I don't know the impact that it has on the brain or anything. But what I do know, and what I have read and I have researched, is the medical benefits of it that I fully support. And what I told, and I'll share exactly what I said to my daughter, who fully supports cannabis, is that you follow whatever the law is, because I don't think these areas need to be as gray as we make them. Do whatever the law, you follow the law. And don't, because the laws are different, it's DC versus Maryland, in Georgia, whatever the law is. But from the to get to your question as far as the sheriff's department role, right now, the sheriff's department doesn't take on much of a policing role. And what I mean by that is that we're not initiating cases. And so the people that the sheriff's department wants, these are people that the judge issues a warrant for this person has either escaped from jail or they didn't show up to court and or they missed a court date. And so we're not involved in, which cases should be prosecuted or different things like that. But I will give a scenario where maybe, okay, let's say our guys go in a house on a warrant and there's cannabis activity in the house. I operate off of how we are taught or trained on the federal level is that we're there for the warrant. We're not there for anything else. Because on a federal level, like it's some of it's a little extreme that I don't necessarily agree with, but on a federal level, for an example, if our guys are assigned to do evictions, and let's say somebody is wanted or some other things are going on, they don't particularly want. If you're assigned to do evictions, you do evictions. You don't need to get because you got so many evictions to do, and so that's your mission for that day. If there's 50 evictions, you can't get caught up in anything that has anything to do with evictions. So it's the same thing when I say like a warrant. If a guy's going to warrant in this cannabis activity, they're going to know that is not. You're not there for the cannabis activity. You're there for the person, the wanted felon, repeat offender that's on the street that could be, committing more crimes against our kids and our seniors and different things like that. And so that's kind of where I stand on it. But I do support the medical aspects of cannabis. I've learned that much of it. I know enough about it. I'm thoroughly convinced in what I've learned from my daughter, who says she's told me her own testimony. And so coming from her and the benefits of it, I've learned a lot, and I would support the use and whatever the law is for whatever we decide on in Maryland.
True. And Dave, of course, I respect the fact that you recognize the benefits of medical now, especially from someone, close to you, because, every time for me, a lot of times I say that it becomes personal when it hits home, right? So you understand it differently when yourself go through it, so I appreciate that. And, the thought of, cannabis and laws is like, Dave, we create these laws as people. These are man-made laws. I'm the type of person that believes that these laws against cannabis should never have happened. It's prohibition. And the thought is it's not just, of course, the psychoactive. There's CBD and hemp as well. So this could be something that something that you could use and still not fail a drug test or have these psychoactive effects.
And I'll share this with you too. Also, that just came to mind. As I mentioned, that I am a former world-class competitive drug-free. When I say drugs, I mean steroid-free bodybuilder. And I can tell you that hemp protein has been my go-to source. I'm lactose intolerant, so I don't do any type of milk products anyway. And so the traditional whey protein, it's something I hadn't had whey or anything like that in over 20-something or 30 years. But just experimenting with different types of protein, I've got the most benefits, and I still use hemp protein as a part of my supplement regimen.
Hey, and so you're one of the people that understand that hemp has 1,000 different uses and many different benefits, right? So, just one, as you educate people on what law enforcement could be and what community policing should look like, of course, I'm always trying to educate people on, cannabis and the stigma around it and, the different ways the plant can help people, medically, recreationally, and therapeutically, to be honest with you. And
it's powerful. It's powerful.
I respect all the answers that you said. And one of the things I'll remind you as you continue to run is like, I know that the sheriff's department, a lot of time they execute things that are already in place, like warrants and such. But they're a part of the criminal legal system, right? So if you took direction in deprioritizing or making a statement like, this shouldn't be prosecuted or we shouldn't be criminalizing this, that carries weight. You know what I mean? Yeah. So of course, just keep that in mind that does carry weight.
Yeah. I think that I think that the sheriff a progressive sheriff can do a lot when it comes to all of these different things as it relates to community policing. Because I just think in the 21st century, elected officials like yourself, you have to do more than just get elected and never be seen or never heard from until it's time to get reelected. You have to figure out, see, people that are grassroots community servants, when I become the sheriff, I'm going to figure out how do I use my position to make not the community not only safer, but the community better. You know, what are things that we can do, the influence that I can have to make things better. You know, one of the things that I know from law enforcement is that most of the challenges that people are seeing now post George Floyd is the result of lack of oversight and accountability with law enforcement. And so I know that. And so, you know, when you have a sheriff department like I will have, we're going to have an Office of Professional Responsibility and Integrity Unit. And what that is, because going back to your original question, the sheriff's department is a service to the courts and a service to the community. You know, what functional service industry does not have some type of quality assurance, right? And so with today's technology, you know, imagine what it would look like anytime we have a run-in, especially if it deals with juveniles or anything, that some type of a text message or email or whatever that goes out to say, you know, you understand that, you know, you had something with the sheriff's department. Here's a survey, you know, like you get from Verizon, you get from Google, you know, even my skincare person. The minute I leave my dermatologist, not 10 minutes later, I'm getting a text message asking me basically how was my experience. And so there is no reason why we can't have something similar to that in law enforcement, and certainly we'll have it with the sheriff's department. So we make sure that there's accountability. You know, that's the way it has to be. It's a service to the public, and it's a service to the courts.
Okay. Hey, I appreciate everything you shared, Dave. I got a couple quick questions for you.
Sure.
Pepsi or Coke?
Oh my! I laugh because my mom was a Pepsi person, and I'm really neither. But one time I took my mom a Coke because I just thought sodas were sodas. I drink water. That's it. And so my mom, the look that my late mom gave me, and the schooling that she gave me about Pepsi versus Coke blew me away. It was really an eye opener. And so I'm not a soda drinker, but if I had to choose between one. Mom was a Pepsi person. I've tried Pepsi. I've had Pepsi. I would say Pepsi for me.
You're rocking with the Pepsi. Favorite political icon? You could just choose one.
You know, I love Marion Barry. I think that Marion Barry, people have no idea of the role that Marion Barry played, because sometimes we get sidetracked with other things by intentionally. You know, the media controls the minds of the masses, and we get sidetracked. You know, Marion Barry did have personal issues. Of course, we all got personal issues. We had problems, yes, but when it came to him being a person who genuinely cared about the working class and the underprivileged communities, the Black communities, I don't know that if I've ever seen any other elected official who's shown that level of care. And I've always admired him, and people don't even realize the opportunities at summer jobs programs, contracts. People that lived in big mansions here in Prince George's County, if you talk to a lot of them, they'll tell you that it was that first contract that I got from Marion Barry. It was that first summer job that I got from Marion Barry. He was a person that cared about all people, including Blacks and the underprivileged. And so I want to be able to say, I hope that when my term is up, I hope that people will say the same thing about Dave Grogan.
Hey, I mean, that's big shoes to fill, because we know that Marion Barry, he's the mayor for life. And, you know, definitely a lot of things that you said, you know, a lot of people should remember him for, not just, you know, the things that the media slandered him for. So that's fair. Absolutely. And Dave, last thing I'll say before we get you out of here, how can people stay connected with you? Of course, you got a race coming up.
Yes. You can find me easy. You just Google Dave Grogan. Well, my website is davegrogan.com. That's easy. My email address is groganforsheriff@gmail.com. I'm happy to share my personal cell phone, 301-651-9178. And I'm on all forms of social media. I'm on Facebook, Dave Grogan. I'm on IG, Instagram, LinkedIn. I would love to hear from people if there's any questions. I certainly need all the support I can get. I am a true grassroots candidate that need everything that we can get. So please feel free to reach out to me. And if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, if you heard any good rumors that you want to share about what you may have heard about Dave Grogan, you certainly can ask me anything publicly. I've always been that candidate. You can go post a question on Facebook and let the world see what the answer is going to be. Nothing to hide. So please feel free to reach out to me.
For sure. And Dave, I'll definitely have you back. You know, our time went so quickly today. But
Yes.
definitely try to have you back before the race is over,
Yes.
so we can go into some more convo.
Absolutely, I appreciate you having me, man. I got to get back to work now on the streets. We got door knocking to do.
Hey, go do the work, man. Go do the work.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thanks again, Councilman. Thanks for having me.
No problem. That was this week's episode. See you next week for People Over Politics.